"Officers, arrest these kids now!" The words, sharp and cold, echoed off the marble floors of the bank. In the center of the lobby, surrounded by uniformed police, stood three 8-year-old children. Two little girls were crying, their small bodies trembling. Their brother, Marcus, tried to shield them, his arms barely long enough to encircle them both. The bank manager's voice cut through the air again, dripping with suspicion. "You're telling me these kids just happen to be carrying 15 grand? That's drug money, or it's stolen." Marcus's voice, though shaking, was firm. "It's not. It's from our grandma." "Boy, you watch your tone with me," one of the officers snapped. "You're in enough trouble as it is." One of the girls sobbed. "Please, we didn't do anything." "That's what they all say," he sneered. A younger officer, his face pale, tried to intervene. "Sir, maybe we should just verify their story." He was silenced with a glare. "Mitchell, you're here to observe, not to think." With trembling hands, Marcus held up a phone. "My mom is on her way, she'll tell you." The senior officer scoffed. "Your mom, huh? Let me guess. She'll have some story about what good kids you are." And through his own tears, his voice cracking with a desperation no child should ever know, Marcus cried out, "We are good kids." But what those officers and that bank manager didn't know was that their world was about to be turned upside down. The mother they were mocking was indeed on her way. And when she walked through those doors, their careers, their reputations, everything they thought they knew was about to shatter. This is the story of how blind prejudice against three small children exposed a deep-seated system of discrimination. It's the story of how a single phone call ended careers, sparked a national conversation, and proved that underestimating the wrong children can come with a devastating price. If you believe in standing up against prejudice and injustice, hit that subscribe button and type justice in the comments, along with where you're watching from. You'll definitely be hearing from us at Living Stories. To understand what happened next, we have to go back. Back to where this nightmare truly began. To a morning that started not with fear, but with hope, love, and a grandmother's final gift. To understand how three 8-year-old children ended up cornered by police in a bank, we have to travel back 1 week to a day filled with sorrow, but also with profound love. We have to go back to the funeral of Betty Richardson. Grandma Betty was the sun in their small universe. For Marcus, Maya, and Mia, she was the weaver of stories, the teacher who taught them that their black skin was a thing of beauty, and the quiet saver who tucked away every spare penny so that her grandbabies could have the opportunities she never did. At the reception, their Uncle James pulled the children aside. In his hands were 3 crisp, white envelopes. "Your Grandma Betty. She left something special for each of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She saved this money your entire lives." He handed an envelope to each child. When they opened them, their eyes widened in disbelief. $5,000 for each of them. "That's so much money," Mia gasped. What do we do with it?" Marcus asked, his voice a whisper. "Your grandma wanted you to put it in the bank," James explained, "to start learning about saving. She also wrote you each a letter." With reverent hands, the children unfolded the notes. Grandma Betty's familiar handwriting seemed to speak to them from the page, one last time. "My precious babies, by the time you read this, I'll be watching over you from the stars. This money is a seed. It's to teach you that you are worthy of building wealth, of chasing dreams, of taking up space in places that might not always welcome you. Marcus, protect your sisters, but always remember to let them be strong. Maya, your kindness is your superpower. And Mia, your voice matters. Never be afraid to use it. Be brave, my loves." Places that might not always welcome you, Grandma Betty knew, and she was trying to prepare them. Fast forward 1 week. It was Tuesday morning, the day it all went wrong. Their mother, Diane Richardson, was preparing for a major board meeting in Manhattan, but the apartment was buzzing with a different kind of energy. Today was the day they would honor Grandma Betty's last wish. Today, they were going to the bank, like real grown-ups. "Now remember," Diane said, adjusting their collars, "Uncle James will drop you off. You go straight to Ms. Patricia's window. She's been our family's teller for years. You give her these deposit slips I filled out, and Uncle James will pick you up in 30 minutes. Got it?" "We got this, Mom." Marcus puffed out his chest. "We're responsible. Maya chewed on her lip. I'm a little nervous. Don't be, Mia said, squeezing her twin's hand. It'll be fine. Diane knelt to their level, her eyes serious. Stay together. Marcus, you hold both of your sisters' hands. Don't talk to strangers, and if anything feels wrong, you call you immediately, they chorused, a well-practiced mantra. Diane handed Marcus her old, spare phone. For emergencies only. It's fully charged. This is so cool, Mia beamed. We're like secret agents. Maya hugged her envelope to her chest. I'm going to tell my money to grow big and strong, just like Grandma said. If you're watching this and you have children of your own, you know that feeling, that mix of pride and anxiety when you trust them with a new responsibility. Hit that subscribe button right now because what happened next, what shattered that innocent excitement, is a warning every parent needs to hear. Everything was going according to plan until it wasn't. Just blocks from the bank, Uncle James's car sputtered and died. As a mechanic, he knew he could fix it, but it would take time. He could see the bank's entrance just 50 feet away. It was so close. Okay, kids, he said, wiping his hands on a rag. Marcus, you holding your sister's hands tight? Yes, sir. Maya on my right, Mia on my left. Uncle James hesitated. His gut told him to wait. But Mia, full of confidence, piped up. Mom said we're responsible. We can do this, Uncle James. He made a split-second decision that would change everything. Okay, straight there, straight back. 10 minutes, you hear me? The children crossed the street, their backpacks bouncing, Marcus a protective anchor between his two sisters. 3 beautiful black children, walking into a bank to honor the legacy of the woman they loved. They had no idea what was waiting for them inside. Her name was Sharon Caldwell, 44 years old, 20 years at Westbridge Financial, branch manager. And in her own mind, she was a protector of order, a woman who could spot trouble a mile away. But the truth was far more tragic. Sharon was a woman who had lost custody of her own children to neglect and a relentless career. Instead of healing from that pain, she'd weaponized it, becoming hyper-vigilant, especially about unattended children. And coiled beneath that vigilance was a deep-seated prejudice. In her ledger, black families were filed under high risk. There were others in the bank that day who could have changed the outcome. Patricia, the senior teller who had known the Richardson family for years and always had lollipops ready for the children, wasn't there. It was her daughter's college orientation. In her place sat Derek Martinez, 26, kind-hearted, and new. He didn't know the Richardsons, and his primary goal was to not mess up. Derek was a good person, but good people in the face of a bad system often forget how to speak up. And then there was Linda Hartley, an elderly white customer, well-meaning and insulated by a lifetime of privilege, about to witness something that would test her conscience. And here's a question for you, and I want you to be honest in the comments. If you were in that bank and you saw what was about to unfold, what would you have done? Would you have stepped in, or would you have stayed silent? Let me know below. The glass doors slid open with a quiet whoosh. Marcus, Maya, and Mia stepped into the cavernous marble lobby. The high ceilings seemed to swallow the sound, making everything feel hushed and intimidating. Okay, Marcus whispered. Mom said Ms. Patricia's window is the third one. They stood in line behind Linda Hartley, waiting patiently. Linda turned, her face crinkling into a warm smile. Well, hello there. Are you 3 here with your parents? Our uncle is just outside fixing his car, Mia announced proudly. We're making a deposit all by ourselves. Oh, how wonderful. Such responsible young people. It's a gift from our grandma in heaven, Maya added softly. That's just lovely, dear, Linda murmured. Everything was fine, a perfectly normal interaction. But from behind the glass wall of her office, Sharon Caldwell was already on her feet. She had clocked them the moment they walked in. 3 black children. Alone. And in the distorted calculus of her mind, that equation equaled trouble. She grabbed a clipboard and strode onto the bank floor. Just as the children reached Derek's window, before a single word could be exchanged, Sharon was there, blocking their path. Excuse me, she said, her tone clipped and cold. Are you children here with an adult? Marcus, ever polite, answered. Our uncle is right outside. We're here to make a deposit. Sharon's eyes narrowed into slits. I see. And where are your parents? Our mom's at work, Maya said, her voice trembling slightly. She said Ms. Patricia would help us. Patricia is not here today, Sharon stated flatly, and I'm afraid children cannot conduct transactions without a parent present. That was a lie. It was not bank policy, but she said it with an authority that made it sound like gospel. Derek, the young teller, started to lean forward. Actually, ma'am, our policy states minors can make deposits to existing accounts with the proper paperwork. Sharon cut him off with a look so sharp it could have drawn blood. Derek, I will handle this. Derek's mouth snapped shut. He physically recoiled, and in that moment, the one person who could have stopped the train wreck chose silence. Marcus held up the neatly filled deposit slips. But our mom said it was okay. She filled out all the papers for us. Sharon snatched them from his hand, examining them with an exaggerated air of suspicion. These could be forged. Forged? Mia asked, her brow furrowed. What's forged? Maya's eyes welled with tears. Are we in trouble? Marcus squeezed his sister's hands, trying to project a bravery he didn't feel. We're not in trouble. We didn't do anything wrong. But his heart was hammering against his ribs. Even at 8 years old, he could feel it, that cold, sickening shift in the air. They weren't being seen as children. They were being seen as suspects. And Sharon Caldwell, standing over them with her clipboard and cold blue eyes, was just getting started. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that subscribe button and type yes in the comments. Sharon loomed over them, her words a weapon. How much money? She demanded. Are you depositing? Marcus, still operating on the principle that honesty was a shield, answered clearly. $15,000, $5,000 each from our grandma. Sharon's eyebrows shot towards her hairline. That's an extraordinary amount of money for children to be carrying. Mia, her voice ringing with love for her grandmother, said, Our grandma saved it for us our whole lives. And then, Sharon delivered the blow that shattered their innocence. Is that so? And how do I know you didn't steal it? The air left the children's lungs. On their faces, pure, unadulterated shock. In the world their mother and grandmother had built for them, stealing was an unthinkable act. And now this cold, strange woman was accusing them of it. We would never steal, Maya cried out, the words torn from her. Mommy taught us stealing is wrong. Mia, her own small face a mask of indignation, added, That's a mean thing to say. Sharon's expression didn't soften. Then you won't mind if I call the police just to verify your story. The police. She was threatening 8-year-olds with the police. Marcus tried one last time, his voice pleading. You can call our mom. Here's her number. He recited it perfectly from memory. Sharon took out her phone, tapped at the screen, and held it to her ear for a few seconds. No answer, she announced. Goes to voicemail. But did she even dial? Did she dial the right number? We'll never know for sure. All we know is that Sharon had already passed her sentence. She's in a meeting, Marcus said desperately. She said this would be okay. Then you'll have to wait here while I sort this out, Sharon said, her voice final. She gestured toward a row of hard plastic chairs near the entrance, a public display of shame. Can we just go get our uncle? Marcus asked. No one, she declared, is leaving this bank until I say so. And so they sat. 3 small figures adrift in a sea of judgment. Marcus in the middle, a tiny, terrified guardian, clutching his sister's hands. Linda Hartley, the kind elderly woman, approached Sharon. Sharon, dear, she said quietly. They seem like perfectly lovely children. Linda, Sharon cut her off. These children are unattended, carrying a suspicious amount of cash. I am following protocol. But their uncle is right outside. Linda tried again. So they claim. I have yet to see any uncle. Linda retreated. She had tried, but not hard enough. And this is how injustice thrives, on the silence of good people who try once and then give up. 20 minutes crawled by, an eternity for 3 scared children. Marcus, his hands shaking, pulled out the emergency phone and called his mom. Voicemail. Mom, he whispered into the phone. We're at the bank. There's a problem. The lady. She won't let us make the deposit. She said we stole the money and she's being mean. I'm scared. Maya's crying. Maya was crying, silent tears tracing paths down her cheeks. Mia, trying to be strong, had an idea. She reached into her backpack and pulled out the folded letters from Grandma Betty. Look, she said, holding them up toward Sharon. You can read our grandma's letters. They explain everything. And Sharon simply snatched them from her hand. I'll be holding on to these. Hey, Mia cried out. Those are ours. Give them back. Do not raise your voice at me, young lady, Sharon snapped. A bank manager had just stolen the last memento a child had of her dead grandmother. Outside, Uncle James finally got the engine to turn over. He glanced at his watch. Over 20 minutes. A knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. He burst through the bank doors and saw them immediately. Hey, what's going on? Are you guys okay? Maya launched herself into his arms. Uncle James, the lady won't let us put our money in the bank. And she took Grandma's letters. She said we might have stolen the money, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. Like a hawk descending, Sharon was upon them. And you are? She demanded. I'm James Richardson. I'm their uncle. What in the world is the problem here? These children, Sharon began, were unattended, with a large sum of cash. I am simply trying to verify their story. Unattended? James's voice rose in disbelief. My car broke down not 50 feet from your door. Their mother set this whole thing up. Do you have identification? She asked. James handed over his license. And do you have proof of your relation to them? Proof? James was incredulous. They're my nieces and nephew. That isn't proof, she said coldly. Children can be coached. Coached? James was furious. Lady, what exactly are you implying? And then Sharon said the quiet part out loud. I never said that. I said the situation is suspicious. 3 black children alone with $15,000 in cash. Oh, there it is, James interrupted, his voice low and dangerous. 3 black children. You just couldn't help yourself, could you? That has nothing to do with, she stammered. Doesn't it? Then why say it? Why not just 3 children? Sharon's face became a mask of concrete. I treat all my customers the same. Do you? James challenged. How many white kids have you called the cops on this year? Her response landed like a punch to the gut. I'm not discussing this with you. The police are already on their way. For a moment, the world stopped turning. You called the police? James whispered, his voice cracking. On children? Derek, the teller, finally found his voice again. Ma'am, he said, stepping forward. I looked up the account. Diane Richardson. She's been a client for 8 years. High-value customer. Everything checks out. Derek, Sharon barked. Step back. He retreated, and then they heard it. A distant siren growing closer. Mia whispered, Is that for us? Maya began to sob, her small body shaking uncontrollably. Uncle James, Marcus said, his voice a ghost of itself. I'm scared. It's okay, buddy, James said, pulling them close. We didn't do anything wrong. But his own hands were shaking as Marcus pulled out the emergency phone and with trembling fingers typed a message. MOM-HELP-POLICE COMING-PLEASE. 3 police officers strode through the glass doors. The senior officer, Reynolds, a white man in his 50s, carried himself with an air of aggression. Beside him was Officer Washington, a black man in his 40s, his expression just as hard. And trailing behind them, looking deeply uncomfortable, was Junior Officer Mitchell, 24 and fresh from the academy. Just stop for a moment and picture the scene. Police officers called to a bank to confront a threat. The threat? 3 8-year-old children trying to make a deposit. If that image makes you angry, if the very idea of it breaks your heart, then subscribe right now. Because what happens next reveals exactly why these stories must be told. Sharon, the bank manager, greeted the officers with a look of strained relief. Thank you for coming so quickly, she began, her voice low. These 3 children. They came in alone, with $15,000 in cash. Their stories keep changing, and this man, she gestured toward James, claims to be their uncle, but he has no proof. Officer Reynolds' eyes swept over the children, then to James, sizing them up not as citizens but as suspects. His voice was a whip crack in the quiet bank. All right, let's sort this out. Sir, step over here. James moved to explain. Officer, these are my nieces and nephew. Their mother is at work. Reynolds barked, cutting him off. I said, step over here. Now. His partner Washington turned his cold gaze on the children. You 3, stand up. They rose as one, a small, terrified chain of clasped hands. 3 pairs of eyes, wide and dark with a fear no child should ever know. The third officer, Mitchell, hung back, the discomfort etched on his young face. Washington loomed over them. "Where'd you get the money?" Marcus, the oldest by minutes, answered, his voice trembling. "Our grandma left it to us." Reynolds's voice dripped with disbelief. "Your grandma just happened to leave you 15 grand in cash? How convenient." "It's not convenient," Mia protested, her small voice fierce. "It's true," Washington snapped. "Watch your tone, little girl." Maya began to cry. "We're not lying." Reynolds leaned down, his presence suffocating. "Nobody said you were lying, but $15,000 is a lot of money. Usually when we see kids with this kind of cash, it's connected to drugs or theft." Marcus's voice shot up an octave. "We don't do drugs. We're 8 years old." Washington ignored him, beginning an interrogation. "Where do you live?" James tried to intervene. "What does that have to do with—" "Sir, I am warning you," Reynolds cut in, his hand moving toward his hip. To the children, he repeated, "Where do you live?" "Brooklyn," Marcus whispered. Reynolds and Washington exchanged a look, a knowing, damning look that said everything. "Brooklyn, what part?" Reynolds pressed. "Prospect Heights," Marcus replied. Washington's voice was slow, deliberate. "Uh-huh. And how does a family in Prospect Heights come up with $15,000 in cash?" "Their grandmother saved for years," James said, his voice tight with anger. "She was a teacher." Reynolds smirked. "A teacher with 15 grand lying around? Interesting." The young officer, Mitchell, spoke quietly. "Sir, maybe we should just verify their account with the bank." Reynolds shut him down instantly. "Mitchell, what did I tell you about speaking out of turn?" "Sorry, sir." Mitchell fell silent, the one officer who saw children instead of criminals, silenced by his superiors. "We're going to need to search those backpacks," Washington announced. "Why?" Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. "Because I said so," Reynolds commanded. "Empty them, now." The children's desperate eyes found their uncle, pleading. "Do they have to?" James asked. Reynolds' voice was a low threat. "Unless you want us to do this the hard way." And so, under the cold, fluorescent lights of the bank, 3 small children were forced to empty their backpacks onto a sterile table, their childhood treasures spilling out like evidence at a crime scene. Marcus's contained schoolbooks, a Captain America action figure, a juice box, and his envelope of $5,000. Maya's held a coloring book, crayons, a worn stuffed animal, and her envelope. Mia's had library books, a notebook filled with careful handwriting, pencils, and her envelope. The innocent, beautiful, normal contents of a child's world. Washington picked up the action figure. "What's this?" "It's Captain America," Marcus said quietly. Reynolds let out a cruel laugh. "Funny, Captain America follows the law." Then Washington dumped out the envelopes. He began to count the money, not with the care of a teller, but with the aggression of a raid. Each bill was slapped down onto the table, a sharp percussive sound, and with every slap the children flinched, as if the blows were landing on their own skin. Mitchell spoke up again, his voice strained. "Sirs, they're just kids." "Mitchell," Reynolds warned, "one more word and you're on desk duty for a month." His mouth snapped shut. Reynolds turned his attention back to Marcus. "You seem like the leader. You're making your sisters do this?" "What? No." "You're doing it together?" Reynolds accused. "Don't lie to me, son. Where did you really get this money?" "I told you," Marcus insisted, his voice breaking. "Our grandma." Washington twisted the knife. "Your grandma's dead, right? Convenient she can't tell us the truth." That was it. Maya began sobbing uncontrollably. Mia's anger finally burned through her fear. "Don't talk about our grandma like that," she shouted. Washington's voice turned dangerous. "Excuse me? You're being mean," Mia cried. "We didn't do anything wrong." Reynolds pointed a finger in her face. "That's strike 2, little girl. One more outburst and we're taking all 3 of you down to the station." "You are not taking them anywhere," James growled. "Sir, you want to get arrested for obstruction? Because I can make that happen." Mitchell, trying a softer approach, knelt to their level. "Hey, it's okay," he said gently. "Just tell us the truth and we can sort this out." Maya looked at him, her face streaked with tears. "We are telling the truth." Mitchell glanced back at his senior officers, his discomfort palpable, but he was outnumbered, outranked, and powerless. Kid's got a mouth on her, Washington said with a shake of his head. Probably learned it at home, Reynolds added. Where is their mother, anyway? What kind of parent sends kids to carry this kind of cash? A parent who's teaching them responsibility, James countered. Reynolds' suggestion was dark. Or a parent who's using them to move money. We see it all the time. They were accusing a woman they had never met of using her own children as drug mules. Based on nothing. Based on the color of their skin. Marcus, his voice shaking but determined, made one last stand. My mom's name is Diane Richardson. She's the CEO of Richardson Holdings, and she's going to be here any minute. When she gets here, you're going to be in trouble. Washington laughed, an actual barking laugh. Oh, you're telling on us? I'm shaking. Reynolds smirked. CEO, huh? Let me guess, she's important? She is important, Mia insisted. Sure she is, sweetheart, Reynolds dismissed her. They dismissed him. They mocked him. They didn't believe him for a second. And then Mitchell's radio crackled to life. Dispatch to Unit 247, Mitchell responded. Go ahead. We have a Diane Richardson on the line demanding to speak with officers at your location. She says those are her children. She's pretty insistent. Reynolds waved a hand dismissively. Tell her we're conducting an investigation. Sir, the dispatcher continued, her voice hesitant. She says she's CEO of Richardson Holdings and she's... Mitchell's eyes widened. Wait, Richardson Holdings? Isn't that the company that... His words were cut off by the sound of the bank's glass doors bursting open. The sharp staccato click of expensive heels on marble echoed through the lobby like gunfire. Everyone turned. It was not an entrance. It was an arrival. Diane Richardson swept into the bank, not as a person, but as a force of nature, a hurricane in a tailored suit, a mother bear who had scented a threat to her cubs. And in that moment, everything was about to change. If you believe every person who wronged these children deserves to face the consequences, hit that subscribe button now as we continue this story. The children saw her and screamed, Mommy! They tried to run to her, but Reynolds barked, Stay where you are! Diane's voice cut through the room like a blade. Don't you dare tell my children what to do. Come here, babies. It wasn't a request. It was a command that brooked no argument. They crashed into her arms, sobbing into her suit jacket. Without a moment's hesitation, Diane dropped to her knees on the cold marble, her immaculate appearance forgotten as she gathered all three of them into the center of her world. I'm here. I'm here, my loves. I'm here. She whispered over and over, her voice breaking. Her hands moved frantically over them, checking for bruises, for any sign of harm. Are you hurt? Did anyone touch you? No, Marcus said through his tears. But Mom, they said we're criminals. They were so mean, Maya added. They made fun of Grandma, Mia choked out. Diane's face transformed. The worried mother vanished, and in her place stood a warrior, her jaw set, her eyes went cold. She rose slowly, deliberately, positioning her children behind her, a human shield. She turned to face the officers. Reynolds tried to regain control. Ma'am, we're conducting an investigation. An investigation of what? Diane cut him off, her voice sharp as shattered glass. 3 8-year-old children making a bank deposit? They had $15,000 in cash, Washington offered. Their inheritance from their late grandmother. What is the crime? The situation was suspicious, Reynolds said, his confidence wavering. What specifically was suspicious? Diane demanded. 3 unattended minors with a large amount of cash. Their uncle was outside, she corrected him instantly. They were not unattended. What you mean is you saw 3 black children and you made an assumption. That is not what this is about, Reynolds sputtered. Then tell me, officer. Reynolds, she said, her eyes dropping to his name tag for a fraction of a second before locking back onto his. How many white children have you interrogated for making a bank deposit this year? Silence, thick and heavy. Then Mitchell, the young officer, spoke quietly. None, ma'am. Reynolds shot him a look that could kill. Diane gave Mitchell a slight nod. Thank you, officer. Mitchell, ma'am. She turned her full attention back to the other 2. Officer Reynolds, Officer Washington, you treated my children like criminals. You searched their belongings, you mocked their dead grandmother, and you threatened them for doing exactly what their mother told them to do. Ma'am, we were following protocol, Washington said defensively. Protocol for what? Her voice dripped with sarcasm. Banking while black? Being children while black? Reynolds made the fatal mistake of trying to threaten her. You need to watch your tone. Diane laughed, a cold, dangerous sound devoid of humor. Or what? You'll arrest me too? Please try. I would love to add that to the lawsuit. Reynolds' face went blank. Lawsuit? Oh yes, Diane said, her smile terrifying. For civil rights violations. Unlawful detention of minors. Racial profiling. Emotional distress. I am not just suing this department, Officer Reynolds. I am coming for you. And you, Officer Washington. And this bank. And I will personally ensure your faces are plastered on every screen in this city as a monument to what you did here today. We were doing our jobs, Washington protested. Your job is to protect and serve. You terrorize children. There is a difference. Mitchell tried to speak up. Ma'am, if I may, I tried to tell them. Mitchell, shut your mouth, Reynolds snapped. No, Diane intervened. Officer Mitchell, please continue. The young officer took a breath. Ma'am, I told them we should just verify the account. The kids weren't doing anything wrong. They were scared, and they kept telling the truth, but he looked at his senior officers. They didn't want to listen. You're finished in this department, Mitchell, Reynolds seethed. No, Diane said, shaking her head. Officer Mitchell just saved his career. You two just ended yours. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Police Commissioner Davis. We went to law school together. Then I'm calling the mayor. She appointed me to the Police Reform Board last year. And after that, I'm calling every news station in New York. Reynolds' bravado finally crumbled. Ma'am, maybe we can discuss this calmly. Diane's voice exploded. Calmly? You want calm? You just terrorized my babies and now you want calm? If you can feel Diane's rage in your own chest, if you understand why she is about to burn everything down to protect her children, hit that subscribe button right now, because what she does next will show you what real power looks like when it's used for justice. Sharon Caldwell, the manager, finally stepped forward. Officers, maybe I should explain. Diane turned, and the look on her face made Sharon take an involuntary step back. This is your fault. You called the police on my children. I was following security procedures, Sharon stammered. Diane asked a simple question. Do you know who I am? You're their mother. Diane's next words fell like bombs into the silence. I am Diane Richardson, CEO of Richardson Holdings. We own 43 companies, a portfolio that, as of 6 months ago, includes Westbridge Financial. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. I don't just bank here, Sharon, she said, her voice dropping to a deadly quiet. I own this bank. Every branch, every policy, every employee, and that includes you. The color drained from Sharon's face. The officers stared at each other, the full, catastrophic magnitude of their mistake crashing down on them. A gasp rippled through the other employees. Diane's voice was steady and final. So let me be crystal clear. You, Sharon Caldwell, are fired. Officers Reynolds and Washington, formal complaints are being filed, and I will personally testify at your hearing. Officer Mitchell, thank you for trying to do the right thing. Yes, ma'am, he nodded respectfully. Marcus tugged on his mother's jacket, his small voice breaking through her warrior mode. Mom, can we go home now? I don't like it here. Her face instantly softened. She knelt down to their level. Yes, baby, just a few more minutes. She stood and looked at everyone in the bank. Her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner. Get out of my way. And they did. They moved, parting before her like the Red Sea, because in that moment Diane Richardson had reminded them all that true power isn't just money or position. It's about knowing when to use it. And she was about to use every ounce of hers to ensure what happened to her children would never happen to anyone else's again. Now here's a question for you. If you had Diane's power in that moment, would you have done the same? Would you have gone further? Or would you have shown mercy? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Because this battle was far from over. Away from the prying eyes, Diane sat her children down on a leather bench. Did anyone hurt you physically? She asked, her voice gentle again. All three shook their heads. Okay, I need you to tell me everything. And they did. They told her how Sharon accused them of stealing, how the officers were mean and scary, how they mocked Grandma Betty. With each detail, Diane's jaw tightened, but she remained calm for them, a still point in their storm. When they finished, she pulled them close. You did nothing wrong. Do you understand me? Nothing. But the police said, Maya began. The police were wrong, Diane said softly. Sometimes adults are wrong, even police officers. Can police be wrong? Mia asked, her world tilted on its axis. Yes, baby, Diane said honestly. They're human, and some humans have bad ideas about people who look different from them. She asked a trusted colleague to watch the children for a moment, to bring them juice and cookies, to help them feel safe again. Then, Diane marched to Sharon's office. She didn't knock. Ms. Richardson, I can explain, Sharon began, startled. Sit down, Diane said, her voice like ice. And be quiet. Sharon sat. You've worked here 20 years? Sharon nodded, mute. Diane pulled up a file on her tablet. I've been reviewing this branch since the acquisition. Do you know what I found? 14 police calls in the last 2 years. Diane's voice was low, cutting through the silence of the office. Every single one was for a Black or Latino customer, not one for a white customer. Would you care to explain that? Sharon stammered, her composure shattering. I don't profile people. Diane didn't look up from her tablet. Let's talk about transaction approval rates, shall we? White customers with questionable deposits are approved 94% of the time. Black customers with legitimate deposits, 67%. Those numbers, they have to be wrong, Sharon pleaded weakly. They're not. Diane's response was as sharp as glass. I had our forensic accountants verify them, but none of that even begins to compare to what you did today. You saw 3 black children and your mind went straight to criminality. You held them against their will. You called the police. You traumatized them. Sharon finally broke, tears welling in her eyes. I was just trying to protect the bank. From children? Diane's voice was incredulous. From my babies? Let me tell you what you were protecting, Sharon. You were protecting your own prejudice. The dam burst. Words spilled from Sharon in a torrent of sobs. I lost my own children. In the divorce, the court said I was neglectful, that I cared more about my work than I did about them. I see unattended children and I think someone needs to check on them. Diane's voice sliced through the sound of Sharon's weeping. So your trauma becomes their trauma? Your pain becomes their nightmare? I didn't mean to hurt them, Sharon cried. But you did, Diane stated, her voice devoid of sympathy. Intention doesn't erase impact. My son tried to shield his little sisters. My daughters cried and begged you, and you still called the police. You still stood by and let those officers terrorize them. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sharon repeated, the words hollow. Don't tell me, Diane commanded. Tell them. Sharon looked up, confused. What? If you're truly sorry, you'll look my children in the eye and apologize to them. The terror on Sharon's face was answer enough. I don't know if I can do that. Then you're not really sorry, Diane concluded, her verdict final. You're fired. Clean out your desk. Security will escort you out in 1 hour. Diane walked out of the office to find Officers Reynolds and Washington still lingering in the lobby. She approached them, her posture radiating authority. Why are you still here? Reynolds puffed out his chest. Ma'am, we need to complete our report. A bitter, sarcastic smile touched Diane's lips. Your report? Let me help you with it. Here's what it should say. We racially profiled 3 children and violated their civil rights. Can you write that down for me? Washington tried a more respectful tone. Ms. Richardson, with all due respect, Diane cut him off. Respect? You want to talk to me about respect? You mocked my children's dead grandmother. You threatened to arrest 8-year-olds. You searched their backpacks as if they were common criminals. Where was the respect in any of that? We were assessing a potential crime, Reynolds insisted. Name it, Diane challenged, her voice quiet but firm. Name the specific crime. Silence. The air in the bank grew heavy as the 2 officers had no answer. because there had been no crime. There had never been a crime. "Officer Mitchell," Diane called out. The young officer approached, his expression wary. Diane's tone softened. "You tried to do the right thing today. You saw 3 scared children, and you wanted to verify their story instead of escalating. That's good policing. That's what your superiors should have done." "Thank you, ma'am," Mitchell said, a wave of relief washing over him. "I'm going to make sure Commissioner Davis knows exactly what happened here," Diane continued, her gaze shifting back to the other 2 officers. "All of it, including your commendable attempt to de-escalate." Reynolds, desperate for a final show of power, blustered. "Are you threatening us?" Diane's smile was cold steel. "No, Officer Reynolds, I'm making you a promise. By tomorrow your captain will have my formal complaint. By next week, you'll be sitting across a table from Internal Affairs, and I will be there with my children, telling them the truth of what you did." The color drained from Washington's face. "This is going to ruin our careers." "You ruined them yourselves," Diane said, her voice brutal in its honesty. "The moment you saw 3 black children and decided they were criminals. The moment you chose intimidation over investigation. You did this." Defeated, Reynolds and Washington turned and left the bank, the weight of their futures crashing down on them. Mitchell remained behind for a moment. He approached Diane quietly. "Ma'am, I truly am sorry for what your children went through. No one should have to experience that." Diane looked at the young officer who had tried to be a beacon of decency. "Thank you, Officer Mitchell," she said. "That means something." Think about that for a moment. An officer, outnumbered, outranked, and pressured by his superiors, still tried to speak up for 3 children he'd never met. If you believe we need more officers like him, if you believe that one person's voice can make a profound difference, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because stories like this reveal both the worst and the best of humanity. Hit that subscribe button, and let's continue this vital conversation. Diane then gathered the bank staff. They had watched the entire drama unfold, their silence a testament to their fear. Now they looked at her with a mixture of that same fear and a newfound respect. "Effective immediately, Sharon Caldwell is no longer an employee of Westbridge Financial," Diane announced, her voice clear and unwavering. "What happened here today will never happen again. Patricia Wu, when you return tomorrow, you will be the new branch manager, with full authority and a 40% raise." Turning to a young man who had tried to intervene, she said, "Derek Martinez, you showed courage today. You stood up when others remained silent. You are now the assistant manager." Derek was stunned. "Thank you, Ms. Richardson." "Don't thank me," Diane replied. "Prove me right. Ensure that every child who walks through these doors is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of what they look like." The message was unmistakable. Things were changing. And not just at this branch. The ripples from this day would spread, touching every policy, every interaction. Diane Richardson had just declared war on discrimination, and she had the power and the will to win. But the most important battle was already won. Her children were safe. They were with her. They had learned a painful, necessary lesson about the world, but they had also learned that their mother would move heaven and earth to protect them, that when the system failed, she would be there to make it right. The question that remained was, what comes next? How do you begin to heal children who have been so deeply traumatized? How do you explain to an 8-year-old why an adult would treat them like a criminal? How do you help them learn to trust again after that trust has been so violently broken? And that brings me to a question for you. If you were Diane, how would you help your children process this? What words would you use? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this is a conversation too many parents are forced to have. The immediate crisis was over, but the real work, the hard, slow work of healing, was just beginning. As security escorted a disgraced Sharon Caldwell from the building, she clutched a small box of personal belongings, a 20-year career erased in a single morning. As she passed through the lobby, she saw the children sitting with Derek, nervously eating cookies. She paused, her eyes finding Diane's. "Ms. Richardson?" she asked hesitantly. "May I?" Diane looked down at her children. "Do you want to hear what she has to say?" The siblings exchanged a silent, knowing glance. Marcus, the little man of the family, finally nodded. "Okay." Sharon approached and knelt, bringing herself down to their level. "I am so sorry," she began. her voice thick with emotion. I was wrong. I judged you before I knew you, and that was a terrible thing to do. You are wonderful children, and you never deserved to be treated that way. Maya, her hurt still visible, said simply, You were really mean. I know I was, Sharon nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. Then Mia, with a child's unfiltered curiosity, asked the question that cut to the very heart of the matter. Do you have kids? Sharon's voice broke. I did, but I lost them because I wasn't a good mom. Mia, with an innocence that was profoundly wise, replied, You should be nice to other kids then. You're right, Sharon whispered, looking at the brave little girl. You are so right. Marcus, the ever-protective brother, added, I hope you learn to be better. I will, Sharon promised. I promise. She stood and without another word walked out of their lives forever. Mom, Maya asked, watching her go, do you think she meant it? I don't know, baby, Diane answered honestly. But I hope so. She then smiled, a genuine warmth returning to her eyes. All right, my loves, let's go finish what Grandma wanted you to do. They approached the counter where Derek and another teller, Maria, were waiting with warm smiles. Hello, Richardson family, Maria greeted them. We are so happy to see you. Marcus held out his envelope, his voice now filled with pride, not fear. This is from our Grandma Betty. She saved it for us, Maya added, handing over her own. Mia presented hers last, quoting her grandmother's letter. Because we're worthy. Maria's eyes softened. You absolutely are. Your grandmother must have been an amazing woman. She was, Marcus said proudly. She taught us to be brave. The transaction took less than 3 minutes. No suspicion, no interrogation, just kindness. Derek then presented each child with a special certificate. The first Independent Deposit Achievement Award, he announced grandly. Maya's eyes widened. We get awards? You certainly earned them, Maria smiled. And for the first time that day, all 3 children broke into genuine smiles, the kind that light up their eyes and promise that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. Later, at their favorite ice cream shop, huddled in a private booth with triple scoop sundaes, they began to process the day. Mommy, Maya asked quietly, why did those police officers hate us? Diane chose her words with immense care. They didn't hate you, baby, but they believe unfair things about people who look like us. Because we're black? Marcus asked, the question heavy with a knowledge no child should possess. Yes, sweetheart. But Grandma said being black is beautiful, Mia insisted. Diane managed a smile through her own lingering pain. Grandma was right. It is. The problem was never with you, it was with them. I was so scared, Maya confessed. Diane pulled her close. I know, sweet girl. It's okay that you were scared. Marcus, who had been a pillar of strength all day, finally let his guard down. I tried to protect them, Mom. I tried to be strong like you told me to be. Oh, my love, Diane's voice was thick with adoration. You were perfect. You held your sister's hands, you called me, and you told the truth even when you were terrified. That is what real strength looks like. The nice police officer tried to help, Mia remembered. Yes, he did, Diane affirmed. Officer Mitchell did the right thing. Not all people are the same, even if they wear the same uniform. Then came the question every parent of a black child dreads. Mom, Marcus asked, will this happen again? Diane looked into her son's eyes and gave him the dignity of the truth. It might, baby. I wish I could promise you it won't. But sometimes, people will treat you unfairly just because of the color of your skin. That's not fair, Maya protested. No, it's not, Diane agreed. And that's why we have to be prepared. It's why we have to be brave, just like Grandma said. What should we do? Mia asked, wanting a plan. Exactly what you did today, Diane told her. You stay together. You tell the truth. You call me. And you always remember who you are and whose you are. The story of what happened at Westbridge Financial did not stay within the bank's walls. Within hours, headlines blared across every news channel. CEO's children racially profiled at own company's bank. Security footage went viral. The public outcry was immediate and fierce. Officers Reynolds and Washington were suspended, their careers effectively over. But Officer Mitchell was publicly commended and promoted, his courage becoming a new standard for the department. Diane Richardson established the Betty Richardson Children's Financial Literacy Program in her mother's honor. Soon, other banks, fearing similar scandals, rushed to reform their own policies. The story of three brave children had sparked a national conversation. Before we conclude, I need you to do something. If this story moved you, if it made you angry or hopeful, then subscribe to this channel. Injustice thrives in silence. When we shine a light on it, when we refuse to look away, we make change possible. Hit that subscribe button and be part of the solution. 6 months later, the Richardson children returned to the bank. They walked in holding hands, not with fear, but with the quiet confidence of people who know they belong. Patricia, the new manager, greeted them with a beaming smile. "Hi, Miss Patricia," Marcus said cheerfully. "We're here to check on our savings." As they conducted their business, they noticed a young Hispanic girl and her mother enter nervously, speaking quietly in Spanish. Patricia immediately greeted them in their own language, her warmth instantly putting them at ease. Marcus, Maya, and Mia exchanged a knowing look. This was it. This was the change they had helped create. They walked out into the sunshine where their mother was waiting. "How did it go?" Diane asked. "Perfect," Maya said. "Just like it should be," Marcus added. As they walked away, a family once again whole, it was as if Grandma Betty's voice echoed on the breeze, the final words from her letter. "Remember, my loves, you are worthy of taking up space. Be brave, be strong, be you." This story was inspired by the real experiences of countless children. They walked into a bank to honor a memory, and walked out having changed the world. They learned that being a child with dark skin and a pocket full of money doesn't make you a criminal. It makes you a child with a future, and a grandmother who loved you enough to give you a head start. That is the power of a mother's love. That is the legacy of Betty Richardson.